All right. So guys, we're starting off with the second topic, climate. Before we move on to the details, can you guys tell me the difference between climate and weather?
Is in climate like the overall weather, and weather is the weather is right then.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Anything else? Abdurrahman, would you like to add anything? No?
No.
Okay, so weather is basically a change in atmospheric conditions for a short period of time, whereas climate is a generalized terminology for the atmospheric conditions for a longer period of time. Okay, so this is weather is change in atmospheric conditions I mean, both of these are change in atmospheric conditions, but weather is for a short period of time and the climate is for a longer period of time. Okay. For example, how would you describe the climate of your cities? Both of you guys are from Saudi Arabia. So how would you describe the climate of your country? Any word for that description?
It's very hot.
It's very hot, absolutely. And whenever you guys, let's say, there you guys must have experienced days with a moderate climate, rainfall maybe, winds maybe. So that is the change in weather patterns. If let's say it rains on a particular day, that is the atmospheric condition for that short period of time. But the overall climate, you can say the climate of Saudi Arabia is very cool. It's cold. No, it might be for a particular day, but that is not the typical climate of that region. Okay. So climate is used to describe the atmospheric condition for a longer period of time, whereas weather is used to describe the atmospheric condition for a shorter period of time. So how do we describe the climate of Pakistan? So because this is Pakistan studies, we will only be looking at the examples of Pakistani cities and the country in general. So if you look at the climate of Pakistan here, we can divide the climate in 4 climatic zones. Generally, the climate of Pakistan is moderate. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. If you go to the northern mountains, you'll experience, I mean, you might experience extreme winters because of the weather conditions. And if you travel towards the southern areas, for example, Karachi, for example, Hyderabad, you'll experience warmer weather conditions. But if we talk about the central regions, for example, Islamabad, Lahore, the climate, the weather of these areas is moderate, not very hot, not very cold. So general term that we use to describe the climatic conditions of Pakistan is a very moderate climate. So we've divided the entire country into 4 climatic zones. Number 1 is Highland climate. Number 2 is the lowland climate. Number 3 is the coastal climate. Guys, what are coastal areas? Any example for coastal? Yeah.
We can say Karachi that are
Yeah.
near to the sea.
Near to the sea, absolutely. Karachi is a perfect example of coastal climates. Okay, yeah. So we've divided this our entire country into 4 climatic zones. Let me draw a map. Okay, this is just a rough representation, guys, not an accurate map. Please excuse the drawing. I hope this is good enough to represent the country. Okay, so now I'm going to divide this entire country among these 4 climatic zones. So all of these areas here, this is zone A. This is also zone A. So typically the highland climate, this green area is all the highland climate. I can also refer the cities for these specific zones here. Okay. The second one is here. This is B. This is the lowland climate in blue. And the climate in red one here is, this is D, sorry, yeah. And the one that I'm drawing in black here, this is, it's also D. Sorry, I need to draw this. This is also,
Sir,
yeah.
sir, I think the place where Gavada's Pastin and Mara, they are C.
This is C. I've drawn a black overline. Is this fine?
Okay.
Hmm? Yeah, the
Okay.
climates can also overlap, right? It is possible for an area to have arid climate as well as coastal climate. So, for example, this part D that you're talking about, this D is overlapping with these areas here, the coastal areas, where Gwadar, all the areas of Balochistan, or the Karachi, Pasni or Mara ports are located. So these coastal areas can have coastal climate and some influence of arid climate as well. This is why I've drawn some overlapping here. Even this part C overlaps with the climate of B, because at the end of the day, all of these coastal areas are also a part of the lowland climatic zones, right? Because Karachi, the Hyderabad, all the areas of Sindh and Balochistan are also a part of lowland topography of Pakistan, right? So obviously they'll also experience lowland climate. And since Karachi has the sea alongside it, it'll also experience coastal climate and also the arid climate. Okay, so it's completely okay for the climatic zones to overlap here. Okay, so now we're going to discuss some details as to how the climates differ, what the climates exactly are. So let's talk about the highland climate. Just I'm going to write a few pointers for you guys just so you know, okay, what kind of climate it is. For the highland areas, extreme winters. Okay, winters are very cold and summers are not very cold, moderate summers. Okay, and you could say rainfall, a good amount of rainfall in winters and summers. Have you guys been to the northern areas of Pakistan? No?
Like the northern,
Yeah, the
like
northern.
Murray.
Yeah, Murray, Naran, Kashmir, Kardu,
I haven't been
Swat.
to those, just Murray.
You've been to Murray? So, how would you describe
Yeah.
the weather conditions of Murray?
Colder.
It's colder, right? Because it's part of the northern mountains and it's a high and it experiences this highland climate, right?
Yeah.
Murray also experiences extreme snowfall in winters, and the summers are mild because of the altitude, of course. The lowland climates, on the other hand, they experience hot summers, extreme summers. For example, these days, most of the areas in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad are experiencing extreme heat waves. Monsoon rainfall. We're gonna talk about monsoon rainfall in detail, guys. Don't just get confused over here in these type of rainfalls. Just for now, no, yes, the lowland areas do experience rainfall, but not as much as the highland areas do. And yeah, okay. Coastal areas now. Coastal areas, all the areas alongside the sea, they experience warm summers, not hot summers. Warm is, let's say, a step down of these hot summers. The summers aren't very extreme. For the temperatures would vary from around 30 to 35 degrees Celsius. Warm summers and mild winters, because the winters aren't also very cold here. If you guys have been to Karachi, you'll know Karachi is never cold in winters. I mean, it's just moderate. It just experiences moderate winters. And then rainfall, because of the sea, it's less, but whenever the rainfall occurs, I mean, the rainfall is accompanied by heavy thunderstorms, because of the sea, the influence of the western depressions, the winds that carry the that basically develops these pressure zones over land and over sea. We're going to discuss all of these in detail in the upcoming lessons. Arid climate, on the other hand, is dry, hot summers, and mild winters. All right, guys, is this clear up till now? Is there any questions so far?
No, so good, sir.
Okay. Okay. Abdul Rahman, are you also clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Let's move on to the detailed descriptions now. We need to describe these climate zones in complete, and we also need to know some of the examples as to which cities, which areas, which regions specifically experience these climates. So we're going to start off with the Highland climate first of all. So the Highland climate is mostly experienced by the northern and northwestern areas of Pakistan. Okay. And the average rainfall on the highland areas varies from, you could say, you don't really have to know an exact number, but let's say adequate rainfall, yeah. In winters, another factor that influences this climate is altitude. Why is the climate colder of these highland areas as compared to other parts of the country? Because of the altitude. We're going to discuss how altitude affects climate in detail in the upcoming lessons. And okay, let's look at some details of the exact cities. If you want to, I mean, it is always a good idea to talk about these specific examples while you're writing an answer to an exam question. Gilgit, Chitral, Sawat. So all of these are examples of northern mountains, the highland areas. Okay. And mild summers, dry in western mountains. So when we were studying this first topic, we did talk about the differences in the climates of the northern and the western mountains. Northern mountains experience heavy rainfalls. Western mountains, they comparatively experience lesser rainfalls. So the climate is usually dry, okay, as compared to the northern mountains. Okay, moving on to the lowland climate. Lowland climate, it includes all the areas alongside the Indus Plain. Guys, Indus Plains are all the areas that are alongside River Indus. If you look at the map again, I'm marking Indus with this black. This is where the River Indus flows, okay? And all the areas on both of the sides of the River Indus are basically the Indus Plains. And we divide these Indus Plains into two major categories. We did study this in the first chapter as well. The upper Indus Plain and the lower Indus Plains, okay? Upper Indus Plains and lower Indus Plains. Okay. So all these areas alongside River Indus, they experience this lowland climate and hot summers. Rainfall is due to summer monsoon. And western depressions as well. Again, we will study these terminologies in detail. Western depressions, monsoon, effect of altitude. For now, you should just know the factors that are affecting the climate. How do they work? What exactly happens? The reasons and everything. We're going to study those in the upcoming lessons. Thunderstorms are also common because of the western depressions. Okay, yeah, that is it. Now we are gonna talk about the coastal climate. Guys, the coastal climate, it includes the regions around Indus Delta. Can anybody explain what is a delta? Yes, guys. Any idea what a delta is?
Is it something to do with the river?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But which specific part of a river is known as delta?
Is it the one that goes like away from the main river
And where does it go?
to lakes?
No.
To the sea.
Into the sea, absolutely. So the point where the river enters the sea is called a delta. For example, this is where the river Indus ends, and this is where the Arabian Sea starts. Okay. So assuming this is the Arabian Sea and this is the Indus River. So this area in red is known as a delta. So all the areas alongside Indus Delta, the areas in green, these are the areas that experience coastal climate because these areas are immediately next to the Arabian Sea. Okay, I hope this is now clear. Abdul Rahman, is this clear to you as well? Sorry, guys.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Specific examples: Karachi, Makran Coast, and the climate is dominated by the sea breezes. Sea breezes are all those winds that flow from the sea to the land and then from the land to the sea. It also experiences this factor known as maritime influence. I'm going to explain this as well. Maritime influence is basically the effect of the presence of sea. Okay, the sea keeps the temperatures low during the day. So yeah, now if you let's look at this maritime influence in detail now. For example, this is all the area, this is the land, and let's say this is the sea. Okay, so what happens is, because of the sun rays, the sea will heat up. Okay, and similarly the winds, the hot winds will move over to the land. That those sun rays will also cause the land to heat up at the same time. But now the capacities for the sea to heat up and for the land to heat up are different. Land will heat up differently and the sea will heat up differently. So the difference over here is that land heats up quickly. Okay, you can say that it's quick heating up, and the sea heats up slowly, slow heating up. Now, obviously, if sea is heating up slowly, it will also radiate that heat slowly. And if land heats up quickly, it will radiate that heat quickly. Okay. So now, because land is radiating that heat very quickly, the temperature above this land will be very hot. But what happens is, seas are relatively cooler because obviously the radiation of heat is lesser on the seas as compared to the lands. So this area above the sea is cooler as compared to the area above the land. So the winds that blow from the sea to the land are cool winds. And these cool winds, what they do is they influence the climate of this land as well, and they drop the temperature. Okay, so you can say the temperature of the land drops due to the cool winds from the sea. This is maritime influence. This is why the climate of coastal areas is generally mild. It's not very hot in summers, it's not very cold in winters. But because the winds that blow from the sea to the land are very high in the moisture content, they also increase the humidity levels. All right, so you can say high humidity levels. Have you guys been to Karachi?
I am from Karachi.
You are from Karachi. So have you experienced humidity in summers? Extreme
Yes.
moisture content in air.
Yes, sir. While
That,
playing cricket and football.
right. And that is because of the presence of sea. The winds that carry the moisture from the sea, they basically increase these humidity levels on the land as well. Okay. So the
So
humidity.
while in Riyadh, we can't experience it because Riyadh is far away from sea.
Yeah, so I mean, it would be better over there, right? Humidity, of course, it doesn't let you even go out during the day in extreme summers, huh? So I'm
Yes.
sure it's a lot better over there. I mean, if you look at the temperatures over here in April to September in Karachi, the humidity levels exceed 50%. 50% plus humidity levels. For example, let's say if humidity was, how do I explain this to you? Let's assign some values, okay? Let's say if humidity was 1 out of 10 in winters, in April to September, humidity is 6 by 10. This is how the levels increase. And this is very extreme. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now let's talk about the arid climate. Arid climate, the fourth climatic zone. So this arid climate is experienced by the southwestern Balochistan. And obviously dry and hot, because of lesser rainfalls and extreme winds during May to September. If you guys have been to Quetta or the areas of Balochistan, Gwadar, you would have experienced this arid climate as well. And
I haven't gone there.
you haven't been there, or have you?
No, I haven't.
You haven't. Okay. So just know that you can name Quetta, you can name Gwadar as examples here. Okay. And we're done here. We're done with these 4 climatic zones. Guys, if you need to take a screenshot of the board, please do so. But if you've written the notes side by side, that's well and good. Now I'm gonna assign you guys with a question here. Okay, let me tell you, in the next lecture, we will be studying the climatic elements. The elements that specifically influence these climates. So what you can say that climatic elements are all those factors that affect the climate of highland areas, the lowland areas, the coastal areas, and the arid climate. Okay. And those elements are temperature, rainfall, altitude, cloud cover, continental effect. Okay. So everything that basically affects a climate is known as a climatic element. Okay. For example, if you experience a very bright sunny day, your particular weather for that day would be, I mean, it would be extreme hot. And let's say if your country or if your city experiences more sunny days all around the year, your annual climate will be extremely hot. And if let's say you belong to a city or a country which experiences greater rainfall, let's take, for example, Europe. European countries, they experience mild summers and extreme winters, right? Why? Because the climatic elements over there are different. Rainfall is more, cloud covers are generally greater all around the year. And then if you look at your country, for example, Saudi Arabia or other Middle Eastern states, they experience more sunny days, they experience less rainfall. So all these climatic elements, they vary all around the year and they influence the climate. All right. We're going to be talking about these climatic elements in the next class in detail, how, for example, rainfall affects the climate, how temperature specifically affects the climate, how monsoon winds and everything. Okay. So for now, guys, I'm assigning you a small question as an assignment from what we've studied up till now. I'll write out the question here for you guys to attempt. Explain with the help of examples the differences in the climates of the highland and the lowland areas. So guys, you need to explain with the help of examples the differences in the climates of the highland and the lowland areas. We've written everything down. Go through these notes once and then try to come up with an answer. Write 3 points for the climates of highland areas and then write 3 points for the climates of the lowland areas with examples of cities, examples of specific type of weather conditions and everything. Okay, so let's just keep it till here for today.